Less than 2 weeks, we're going to have our 21st anniversary of September 11th, 2001. And what I'm doing with this video is imploring people out there, the rational minded folk who have researched the events of September 11th, 2001, to produce more content the next 2 weeks because we'll have more attention paid now than we ever will at any time. Um, Whether it's video or written work or film or recommendation, this is the time to try and reach the public and get them away from the more fanatical fringe conspiracy theories. Um, and I think really at this time, more than ever, we need to have more rational voices leading the 9/11 truth movement. And unfortunately, they're led by people like Richard Gage and Bob Honegger, who propose no planes and no hijackers or living hijackers and drone planes and all the other ridiculous, silly stuff that the public now maligns the truth movement with and basically condemns them to nothing more than a joke. Well, not everybody in the truth movement is a joke, and not everybody is an irresponsible theorist. There are some reputable people out there, and they're still active. And it's the people that I've always recommended. It's Paul Thompson, who unfortunately is not active anymore. Ryan Dawson and DJ Thermal Detonator, John Gold and Robbie Martin. There's still people out there. You even got new guys who are just coming out with their own viral media, like Darren Harvey and Sean Russell, and Podcast for New American Century. Give them a follow and give them a listen. We're talking about pre-intelligence, foreign and domestic intelligence agencies who are monitoring these Al-Qaeda subjects and their affiliates many years prior to 9/11. This is where we're going to make inroads on getting people, holding people accountable for September 11, 2001. Remember, if there's no hijackers, there's no intelligence agencies and operations that were running covertly under the dark of night regarding these people and allowing the 9/11 attacks to happen. That's not me saying it. That's from whistleblowers who have said it, people like Thomas Drake, people like Ken Williams, people like Mark Rossini. These people tried for years to warn the United States and their agencies, supervisors, about Al-Qaeda subjects inside the United States. How about Anthony Shaffer and Eric Kleinsmith? How about Robert Wright Jr.? How about Colleen Rowley and Harry Samad? There are people out there who blew the whistle, who tried to warn their superiors that there was an inordinate number of Al-Qaeda subjects inside this country who were going to hijack planes and use them as the weapons and slam them into buildings inside the United States. Meanwhile, their supervisors and the White House, Bush White House, ignored these pleas and didn't do anything to circumvent the attacks from happening or even beefing up security in places like airline industry or immigration. And if you are out there and just wondering where should you start, that's a hard question to answer because you could start from anywhere. I usually start from the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979, but I could go much further back and try to piece the puzzle on motivations of certain individuals and groups who wanted 9/11 to happen. And unfortunately, there are certain people that needed this to happen to extrapolate on previous foreign policy guidelines and goals. They may not wanted it to happen, but it happened and it benefited them. What about the foreign intelligence services of Saudi Arabia and Israel? Why isn't nobody talking about this? I mean, we do have more people talking about Israel, but that's because I think for anti-Semitic reasons. But what about Saudis? We have evidence. We don't have any physical evidence really tying Israel to the hijackers of 9/11. I mean, there's a lot of speculation, rational ones too, but there's more evidence right now to Saudi Arabia and the hijackers. And I've always said, if we could get to Saudi Arabia, we could probably get to Israel. And to all the operators involving these surveillance groups that were acting in maybe not accordance with one another, but were acting under the auspices of the FBI and Department of State, they had no idea they were here. Meanwhile, they were all deported. because the first law that they broke was acting on, well, was them possessing an expired visa. All those people had expired visas. And they were deported. That's because if they were found guilty of an actual crime before the deported visa, well, the FBI could basically investigate them. But they didn't hold them long enough. You know, why were 3 Israelis dancing on the roof of the parking garage of Doric Towers when the North Tower was impacted? Why else would they celebrate that? I mean, I can understand why certain Muslims would. That's because we have a disastrous foreign policy. Why is Israel celebrating? Unless they knew the response by the United States would be toward the Islamic community. But then again, how would they know that Muslims even hijacked that plane if that was the case? So these are questions that we should be asking, not whether a third building fell or whether the hijackers are alive. 20 years you've been entertaining this, and what? For what? What have you gotten? 21 years, have we held anybody accountable? No. And the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry, they're not going to answer any questions for you because they have crackpots on their board of directors like Barbara Honegger, Jane Clark, and Richard Cage. I'm sorry, but they are. They propose false theories. And they don't want to admit that they're wrong. So we have to start asking the right questions. And if we don't, well, I'm sorry, but we're not going to get anywhere in the next 21 years if we still entertain these silly questions. It's time to get serious. And we need the right people to lead. So in the next 2 weeks, anybody out there who wants to interview me or interview DJ Thermodetonator or Sean Russell or Darren Harvey or the kids from podcasts from New American Century, Ryan Dawson, I implore you to do so. John Gold, Robbie Owen, I implore you to do so. You might get some answers that you didn't have before. But if you go to the wrong sources, you're going to have more questions than answers. You hardly will get an answer. You'll get a whole lot of stories. Some of them are very entertaining. But if you want certain information that you can fact check and see that it is true, we have to go to the right people for that. Now, unfortunately, there's not many, but they're still out there. And so I'm always open for any type of questioning, even if you're not affiliated with 9/11 research or whatnot. I've always tried to be accessible to the public at large regarding anything relating to the 9/11 attacks, anything at all. Could be 1993 World Trade Center bombing, could be Pachinko plot, could be foreign policy about Israel or Saudi Arabia, or even religious fundamentalism, the intelligence services. I'll try to answer the best I can. And I'll see you in the next video.